So what do you need besides a miracle?
Guns. Lots of guns.
You missed the target.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Blue Line RV Adventures. We are coming to you from the command post of Blue Line RV Adventures, which is affectionately known as Matilda, our 43-foot long motor coach. And if you haven't followed the channel before, I am a retired Phoenix Police Sergeant of 33 years, and Karen is retired from the corporate world. And we decided, like most retirees, when we retire, we're going to do a lot of traveling, and we kind of went the extra effort, and we ended up buying an RV, and now we are full-time RVers. But we're going to do this video today, and we're going to talk, we're going to touch on firearms for RVs, kind of firearms in general, best maybe what we think is, at least our opinion, what might be some of the best or what we prefer as best type of firearms there are, and then maybe a little bit about RV security and things like that.
Yeah, I'd like to talk today about personal defense and the defense of your home, your RV, if that's your home full time. We want to touch on the personal weapons that I think work best for the individual. Anything that we say today is simply our opinion. And, you know, everybody, the thing that I learned about firearms in particular, lethal and non-lethal weapons, there are both, and we want to encourage anybody to find the right fit for them that best works with their personal safety and the safety of their home. But the one thing that I learned about weapons is that there is an individual fit for everyone, that it's all different. We all have different preferences. Our hands are built different. Our body stature is different. So the nice thing about, if you decide to choose a lethal option for personal use, a lot of different types, there are different manufacturers, there are different sizes that will work for you. And I think that's really important to underscore, especially as a woman who may or may not want to carry a lethal weapon.
And I think that Karen's talking about something very, very important here. Before we even get started in the video, one of the things we should preface a little bit is that if you own an RV, a fifth wheel, trailer, whatever it might be, and you either currently have a firearm or you're contemplating purchasing a firearm, but you don't have the mental mindset to use that weapon potentially in a self-defense situation on another human being, another individual, then our opinion on that would be that you probably shouldn't have the weapon. It's just gonna, and again, based on my experience, what I've seen, that's gonna lead to disaster. If you think you're just gonna have a firearm to try to scare and intimidate somebody, but if in the worst case scenario, you can't quite pull that trigger, then what's going to end up happening more likely than not is the gun or weapon, whatever firearm it is going to get taken away from you and used upon you. And trust me, after 33 years of law enforcement, I know that the bad guy, whether it be male or female, is not going to have any hesitation about using that weapon against you once they get it from you. And again, if that's your mindset, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of non-lethal weapons out there. There are tasers, sting balls, pepper spray, things like that. So if you don't think you can use a weapon on another human being, even a self-defense type situation, again, nothing wrong with that. But I think our suggestion or advice would be you probably shouldn't have the weapon.
There are steps to carry a weapon, and one of them is to understand A, what you're comfortable with, and then B, understand what it means to use that weapon. And then number 3, the training of how to use that weapon.
And that's very important. Before we even get into the weapons and kind of talk a little bit more descriptive about some of the firearms for this video, two things. And again, we've already touched on a little bit, but there's so many different weapons out there. I mean, there's custom-made weapons, firearms, handguns. There's antique weapons, flintlock weapons, all sorts of stuff. So our suggestion, I think, would be is that if you're contemplating buying a firearm, that you should go down to a local gun dealer and one that has a shooting range nearby, because a lot of them will actually rent guns to you to go to those shooting ranges and get an idea how it feels. How does it feel in your hand? I know that we've actually done that. I know that we are strong supporters of the Second Amendment, and we have both gone down to the range before in the past, and we've held various firearms and see how they feel actually on the range. So we would suggest that. The other thing is that if you are unfamiliar about firearms, and again, this video specifically is not an expert firearms type of video. I am not an armorer. I'm not a firearms instructor or anything like that. This video is going to basically pertain to about full-time RVers or part-time RVers and so home security for your RV. If you're looking for a video of specifically the weight of a gun or the distance it can shoot or something like that, we're not going to get into that. We're just going to talk a little bit about our belief on, or at least our opinions on, what some of the best weapons that might be out there. And so in this video, we've already talked about what we think are the first couple of important points here. Number one is that if you are going to have a firearm in your RV, and again, we're going to kind of narrow it to RV, you could probably morph this over to security of your own residential home also, but we're going to just kind of keep it here, sticking it to RVs. But in that, number one, do you have that mindset to use that weapon if you had to, God forbid, in a worst case situation? Could you use that weapon if you had to in self-defense? The second thing is, what we just talked about, is everyone's going to have a different opinion on the type of weapon they want, what feels good in their hand, their grip, grasp, whatever it might be. The third thing, and we would strongly recommend this, is if you are not familiar with firearms, and there's a lot of people out there that are not, that you should take some kind of a firearms safety course. And a lot of those courses nowadays are kind of morphed into,
What are you saying?
Right, into carrying concealed weapon type courses. And we'll talk a little bit about carrying concealed weapons. We're not experts on that area, but we do have some background on it. But you should take some type of a course, and if you take a concealed weapons course, sometimes referred to as a CCW class, if you do take that course, they're going to teach you all different types of instructions and laws that are applicable to the area you're in. Reciprocity, can you carry a concealed weapon in Arizona? Can you also carry it in Nevada? Things like that. Those type of courses are going to teach you all about the weapons and when to use them and when not to use them. We don't teach those courses. We get a little bit of background on it. We might lightly touch on it, but to become really, really familiar with it, you should take one of those courses.
Yes, and if you're unfamiliar with what reciprocity, I can never say it right.
Reciprocity
is, it is the state-to-state agreements.
Mm-hmm.
If you do have a concealed carry permit, that your permit is applicable and acceptable to other states. Now, what those other states are something that you're going to have to do your own homework about, because we don't know where you are, where you originate.
You want to go take a look at some guns? Let's go take a look at some guns. So one thing we wanted to talk about, and I think it's really important, when you start discussing firearms in your RV, and again, we're showing 4 of our handguns here, is that, and this question comes up a lot when we're out at a campfire with some friends or having a coffee or drinking a beer or whatever, and a lot of times they know that I'm retired law enforcement. We have a thin blue line flag out in front of our RV. Sometimes people may ask the question, "Oh, are you retired law enforcement?" "Oh, why, yes. How did you know?" And
we don't get that as often
why,
as you
yes,
might
what
think.
did you know? But anyways, the question comes up and they go, why Phil, what kind of guns do you have in your RV? Do you carry guns in your RV? And when I was in the Navy, Karen, you may not know this, but when I was in the Navy, we used to carry nuclear weapons on board our ship, the USS Arkansas. And
How is this relevant?
I'm gonna segue all this in. So back in the day when I was in the Navy, we used to carry nuclear weapons. Now we can talk about it because it was decades ago. But when I was in the Navy, they used to teach us.
This is why everything is so long.
They used to teach us in boot camp. They said, hey, if your ship's got nuclear weapons on it, someone asks you, does your ship have nuclear weapons on it? You're supposed to look at them, and I still remember this. I can neither confirm nor deny the presence or existence of nuclear weapons on board United States naval vessels. So If someone asks you in your RV, hey, Phil, what kind of gun do you have? Or what kind of gun do you have, Harry, Joe, Smith, whatever it might be? I can neither confirm nor deny the presence or existence of weapons on my RV. But I guess what we're trying to say is it's really nobody's business,
Right.
whether you have handguns or rifles or whatever in your RV, except yours and your significant other. Not that the person you're having, coffee or a beer with over a campfire is going to break into your RV and steal them, but loose lips tend to sink ship. They may tell somebody else who tells somebody else who, next thing you know, that the word is out that there's a retired cop here or retired anybody, a veteran, whatever it might be, who's got weapons inside your RV and someone may break into it. So the short answer is, long answer is, you shouldn't tell people whether you do or don't have weapons in your RV.
They'll know now because we're doing a video.
Yes. Well, and with that, of course, you may say, well, Phil, we now know you have 4 firearms in your RV. No, that's not true, because we're still shooting here in Phoenix, Arizona. In a couple weeks, we're going to be taking off on our next grand adventure, which is going to be towards the southeast United States. I'm going to be heading into Florida and then up in the Carolinas, but that's a whole nother video. But we do have a storage facility with a very large, secure gun safe in there. So that's where our weapons are kept. So we brought them out for this video. Whether these weapons are or not in our RVs, we can neither confirm nor deny, because we're not going to talk about that. But we are bringing them out just for this video, or at least some of the weapons we have to talk about. All right, so with that being said, let's talk a little bit about, in our opinion, again, opinions are like...
They're a lot like your stories. There are many.
Opinions, okay. There probably are. So we're going to kind of talk about, starting off with showing you a weapon that, in our opinion, is not practical for RV use. Assistant, please. All right, this is a Colt AR15 manufactured by Colt. It's got a expandable stock, makes it a little bit bigger. You clasp it up like this, you hold it nice and tight, always keep it in a safe direction, always keep your finger off the trigger, and it's really, really an intimidating weapon. Karen, have you ever fired this weapon?
No.
It's an intimidating weapon. Is this a practical weapon to have in your RV? In our opinion, no, it's not, or at least not to have for RV home security. And the biggest thing is because look how big this thing is. I mean, where are you going to put it? Are you going to put it in a gun safe? Gun safes, on average, weighs several hundred pounds. And they weigh that because they don't want people cutting or breaking into them. Plus, they don't want a burglar, a robber, or a thief to carry off with your weapons inside your gun safe. So the gun safe itself is probably going to weigh several hundred pounds. And when you're talking about weight limits in an RV, it's just not practical to have a gun safe that's going to be several hundred pounds. It's not practical. So where else are you going to put it? You're not going to hang it on the wall or anything like that. So where are you going to put it? I mean, under your bed? I mean, you could, but it's not practical to get out. If it's under your bed and you've got to get it in a hurry because someone's breaking your RV, it's probably not going to work either. So in our opinion, and again, we are believers in the Second Amendment. It's not necessarily a bad weapon to have. That's for another discussion. But to have it in your RVs, you're traveling around the country for RV self-defense or personal defense, probably not the best weapon out there. Okay, so now that we've looked at the assault rifle, are there any other long barrel weapons that might be practical? The next type that comes to my head, at least, is like the hunting rifle, like the 30-06. And I imagine, I don't hunt deer, but I imagine that there's a lot of hunters in RVs that travel all around the country, and they have various hunting rifles, and they hunt elk and deer and things like that. Those type of weapons are great for hunting, but they're probably not the best weapon for self-defense of your RV or self-defense of yourself. Like a bolt-action 30-06, although it's an intimidating bullet and it's very big, it's only going to be able to fire one round. The next long-barreled gun that comes to mind is, for me at least, is the shotgun. The shotgun's an interesting weapon. Karen loves shotguns. She loves them. This is a shotgun girl right here. Like a little Annie Oakley, I'm telling you. But when it comes to shotguns, and again, this is just my opinion, I'm going to have Karen here speak about it herself, but in my opinion, I don't think the shotgun is the best practical weapon for an RV. Now, for a sticks and bricks home, that's a different story. And the advantages to a shotgun, if you don't know in general, again, I'm not an armor, so don't get a lot of messages, Phil, you're wrong on this or wrong on that. But in general, there are two types of rounds that are going to be carried inside of a shotgun. There's the buckshot, which is basically like small BBs. There's double-aught buck and things like that, which kind of scatter the further the round gets away from the gun. And then there's the slug, which is basically just a solid piece of iron that's going to put a very big hole and a target object. There's other things called snake shot and bird shot. We're not going to get into all that right now.
Oh yeah, we are.
No,
'Cause that's the reason why I like them.
well, maybe we are. But in general, a shotgun has got advantages and disadvantages. The advantage to the shotgun is that you don't have to be an accurate shot.
Right. So, in my opinion, is that the reasons why I particularly think that shotguns can work depending on what your home situation is because it has many uses, especially even in an RV situation. It may not be your first option, but it is certainly an option. And that is its applicability. So the shot that you use in a shotgun, I'm going to say a 20 gauge because it's smaller and it's easier to handle. The shot can be used for snake shot. You can use bird shot. Depending on the shot that you're going to use, it has a wider trajectory, and that helps you be able to disable or disable the threat. It's a tool to do that.
Right. That's both an advantage but also a disadvantage. Karen is right. We don't have to be this accurate shot. When the shotgun, if you're loaded up with buckshot or snake shot or bird shot, as it leaves the barrel, the further out it goes, it's going to spread out, and you've got more of a chance of hitting the target. The disadvantage to that is if you hit your target, let's say it's 20 or 30 yards away, and you hit your target, not all of those specific, and I guess we'll call them BBs, are going to hit the target. They're going to spread out, and they could hit something behind the target or next to the target. So just keep that in mind. There are advantages to shotguns. The further away the target is, the more likely it is that not all of those small little rounds are going to hit the target. They're going to spread out. Again, we just have a difference of opinion on this. She likes the shotgun for self-defense in RVs. I don't think it's really a practical weapon. It kind of rolls back to any long barrel gun, the practical weapon of where you're going to keep it at. But I am a very big advocate, though, of shotguns in sticks and bricks homes. I think those are great. You got a good gun safe, it's a good place to go. And one thing you touched on, which I just think is awesome, is the racking of the shotgun, like Sarah Connor did in Terminator 2, where she racks the shotgun.
Be careful what that looks like on camera.
Am I gonna when
Don't
Sarah
do that.
Con-
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't use the hand gesture
Okay.
like that because that's not good.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is probably the most popular type of handgun sold in the United States. Probably. Any idea what that you think that might be?
Phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range.
9mm.
Now, before we start talking about the semi-automatics, again, this video is made for RVers, and some of the RVers that look at this video, a lot of them, some of our friends actually, don't have a very big background in firearms, but yet they want to be a firearms owner. They want to purchase one. They ask us questions on them. So there's two types of handguns. There is the semi-automatic handgun, and then there is the revolver. We don't have any revolvers here to show you. I'll show you a picture of one in the video here. But the revolvers, you kind of picture it in your head, is the old cylinder wheel type gun that you might see in the 1880 cowboy movies or John Wayne or something like that, Clint Eastwood, where it's got the cylinder and you load it up.
Why does everything come back to like movies for you?
I love John Wayne.
Nuts.
Oh, you're hurting my feelings there. But
look, there are cylinder guns, which is a revolver.
Yes.
And
then there
a
are
semi-automatic weapon,
yes,
which uses a different technology.
Yes, but the advantages, before we go on right into the semi-automatics, the advantage to a cylinder type gun is that revolver is that it is not going to jam. Maybe if it's super dirty or something like that, but in general, revolvers don't jam. If you've got some kind of a fear that your handgun is going to jam on you, then you want a revolver. The disadvantages to a revolver are the number of bullets that it can actually carry rounds. In general, most revolvers only carry 6. There are some 22 caliber and 25 caliber that will carry more rounds. There's some larger caliber handguns that carry 5, but in general, they only carry 6. Where a semi-automatic, you can carry, including one in the chamber, could be as many as 17 bullets. In general, revolver is only going to carry 6. The other disadvantage to a revolver is it's going to take a little bit of time to reload. So with that being said, we're going to show you the first 9mm we have here. And before we talk about anything about these guns, we always want to make sure that they are unloaded and it is safe and ready to touch and handle. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to strip the magazine out. Then we're going to cycle it back twice, finger off the trigger, once, twice. Then we're going to lock it back open. Always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. This way it's in the roof of the RV, but it's on my side of the bed, so if I put a bullet through there, the water's going to drip on me, so maybe I should...
This video cannot be 40 minutes
Maybe
long.
I should put it on your side of the bed. Anyway, so we're going to make sure it's in there. We're going to touch and feel, make sure it's empty, and it is. So no bullets in it, we close it back up. This is probably the most popular handgun sold in the United States today. Not this specific model, but this specific caliber. It's a 9mm, very, very common type handgun to sell and to own. And what you do is you basically, you take your magazine, you load it up inside here, you have to cycle around back, you get a bullet in there ready to go, and now you've loaded up with the one in the chamber. You've got, depending upon what type of gun you have or how big your magazine is, you may have anywhere from 10 to 12 to 15 bullets on up. You fire your rounds. On each round you pull the trigger, the brass will eject out of the top of the gun. Then when you're empty, the gun should lock back, telling you it's empty. You can strip out the magazine, then put another one in, use your thumb, pull that down, and you're ready to go. It's a great gun. They do jam. You got to make sure they're clean. They do jam, and you have to know how to handle them. If they do become jammed in a firefight, in a gunfight, you got to be able to know how to extract the jammed round and get back into the fight, as they say in law enforcement terms.
Unlikely. Are you going to have to do that if you're doing this
Zombie
for
apocalypse.
Personal safety?
Yes, yeah. Again, this reverts back to my police training. They want us to get back into the fight, so you strip the gun out, put another one in, and you clean out the jammed round, and you're ready to go back in the fight. But
whoa.
Sorry, police training taken back. So the next two guns we're going to talk about, which in our opinion, and we're going to talk about why, but in our opinion, are probably
For concealed carry.
Yes, for concealed carry. But to me, even just overall, for practicality for the RV, but in general for
Personal concealed
for personal concealed carry, are two subcompacts that are currently on the market today. They are very, very similar. But what's interesting is she likes one, I like another, and that's why we have two different ones. Even though they're extremely similar. They just feel a little bit different to each of us. And that's what we were talking about earlier in the beginning of the video, that you should go down to a gun range and practice and try these. And we're not advocating these are the best guns ever. These are the best guns for us. For Blue Line RV Adventures, these are the guns that we like. Somebody else may have a different idea.
Yes. So as I had mentioned earlier, that fit, form, comfort, all of those types of things play a very large part in your choice of personal carry. And and there's no right or wrong answer, right? Because there's a million different types of people with a million different types of hand sizes and sights and right. Different things like that. So, there's no wrong or right answer. You need to just find the thing that fits you.
So the next one we're going to talk about is my gun, which is the Sig Sauer P365. It's a great handgun. It's my gun. It's very pretty.
And very nice gift from a very close friend.
Yeah, I got this as a retirement gift, and I love this weapon. I am a Glock guy, and I carried Glocks throughout my career in the department, but I do love this Sig Sauer. So before we go any further, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to make sure it's safe. We're going to take the magazine out. We're going to cycle it back twice, finger off the trigger, once, twice. We're going to lock it open. We're going to look and see in there. There's nothing in there, so we're all good to go. I'm going to put it back up. So I like this gun for a lot of different reasons. Number one, it feels really, really good to me. It is a 9mm. It's gonna whether you're carrying a big Glock 19 or whether you're carrying this P365, it's still a 9mm. It's gonna put the same exact punch. But one of the things I really like about it is the concealment.
Well, you need to tell me that's what my gun is supposed to do.
So the thing we're going to talk about in concealment for the P365 is exactly that, concealment. A lot of people are going to go out and they're going to buy holsters. They're going to buy holsters that small their back or their hips, or they're even going to buy ankle holsters, which are all totally fine. But let's say that you don't want to buy a holster. You just want to carry it in your pocket. This gun can do that. I can put it right in my pocket. Slides in really easy, and it's very difficult at this point to really tell I've got a handgun in my pocket. You might see a little bit of a bulge here, but a lot of people might think that's a cell phone. So again, very, very concealable. The same thing with the Springfield Hellcat. Almost the same exact size as the P365. Slightly different grip. Karen prefers it, but again, I can put it in my pocket. It's going to slide in there, and it's going to look like I don't have a weapon at all. It's great for concealment. One other thing, though, that I would suggest about both of these weapons is that you want to make sure that you get it with the extended magazine on the bottom. It's going to allow you to carry a little bit of extra ammunition, but most importantly, when you put it in the magazine, your hand is going to fully grip around the grip of the gun. Without this, if you had a normal magazine in it, and I put the normal magazine without the extension in the gun, and I wrap my hand around it, my pinky really doesn't have anywhere to go. So I would strongly suggest that if you do decide to get this weapon, is that you make sure you get the extended magazine, put it in, so your pinky is going to grab the bottom of that grip there, and it's going to feel more comfortable for you. Same exact thing for the Hellcat. Hellcat does have a regular magazine without the extension, but we've got one for Karen with the extension. I'm going to put it in there, and then now my pinky wraps completely around the grip of the Hellcat.
So Phil likes the Sig Sauer. I prefer the Springfield Hellcat subcompact. It comes in two colors. It comes in black and it comes in the army green. And I chose it because, as I had mentioned before, the palm of my hand is actually pretty small. And I need the grip on this particular weapon fits very much to my hand. I can hold it well. You know, it's very comfortable to hold. It does fit in purses, fits in a waistband, fits in a chest holder if that's what you're going to use as a woman, ankles, what have you. They fit very well. They're very light and it's very comfortable. The thing that I like about the Hellcat that is different from the Sig Sauer is that it has this unique sight. If you can see here and here.
Which in the front sight, it should be important to note, is a night sight as well. So that front sight's actually going to illuminate at night.
Yes, and that's very nice to have. It's when you're doing target practice at a range, it's incredibly accurate.
Yes.
That's the reason why I prefer the Springfield, the fit in my hand. I like the sight. It's incredibly, it's a very accurate weapon. I also really like the control of how I control the kick. Because on a subcompact, what you're going to feel as someone who shoots compact versus subcompact is the recoil. And the recoil on this is very doable when you're doing target practice at a range.
So our dogs will give us a few minutes here to finish this video up. But so that's our opinions, what works for us as far as weapons in your RV if you're going to have an RV. And, you know, we're just not going to get into them, whether we carry them all the time or part of the time or none of the time. It's just really not anybody's business. It's just our recommendation that if you do think that you want to have a firearm in your RV, hi Jake, you want to have your firearm in an RV, that those are at least those two subcompacts I think are going to be our recommendations. In these very stressful situations, if you do have to display your firearm, again, check with local state laws, check with the people that are going to train you to, you know, carry concealed and things like that. But I would just caution people that if you do have to display your weapon, situations getting out of control, you got someone irate, someone's coming at you and they're going to threaten you with a shovel or something like that, whatever it might be, or just the situation's getting very chaotic and you feel that you need to display your weapon, if at all practical, don't point the weapon at the individual as a scare tactic. Pointing a weapon at another person, even if you don't pull the trigger, is a very serious felony in probably just about every state in the union. I know that in Arizona it's aggravated assault. So do not point your weapon at an individual when the situation hasn't gotten to the point where you need to actually pull the trigger. You can display your weapon, you can pull it out, point it at the ground, and you should say, I have a gun. I have a gun, get back, with the gun pointed at the ground. That is a much better situation than pointing your gun and pointing it at somebody when the situation might not merit doing that. And the other thing that I would strongly caution against is do not fire warning shots, especially into the air. People think I can fire a couple warning shots into the air. Some people do it on 4th of July, New Year's Eve. For everything that comes up, everything's must come down. And in Phoenix, in Arizona, we have a law called Shannon's Law, and it had to do with a very young teenager who was in her backyard in Central Phoenix. Broad daylight, it wasn't a holiday or anything like that. And it was in the afternoon, and she was in her backyard, and a bullet came down from the sky and unfortunately killed her. And so Phoenix and the local community got together and they formed Shannon's Law, that if you fire a weapon into the air, you are going to be arrested for a felony. So don't think you can fire a warning shot into the air. And at the same time, don't fire, this is not Hollywood, don't fire a warning shot into the ground either, because they ricochet. The bullets will actually fragment. And I've seen it many times where someone will fire a bullet into the ground, it fragments, and the actual shooter gets hit with part of the fragments. So again, this isn't Hollywood. Don't do warning shots, and don't start pointing your gun at an individual unless you absolutely have to. If it comes to a point where you think you may have to draw your weapon, and that's up to each individual person, if you think you can do it. I can't tell you when you should or shouldn't draw your weapon, but in your head, if you think that you should, then my recommendation is do not point at someone unless you absolutely have to. And if you think that you do have to draw the weapon, you should verbally audibilize it and say, I have a gun, get back. Anyways, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe consider liking, subscribing. It's totally free, and it does help Karen and I continue on with our journey. And remember, at Blue Line RV Adventures, we got your 6. We're supposed to say that together. We never say that together. One more time, the count of 3. And remember, at Blue Line RV Adventures, we got your... One more time.
Well, quit yelling at me.
I'm not yelling at you.
You are yelling at me.
I'm just saying it directly. One more time. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. At Blue Line RV...
We're done.
We're done.